Hello everyone and welcome to WOM. I don't know what this is. Work to home condensed. Okay, it's some really weird branding they've come up with instead of just paint the town red like Ellenbrook line. But yes, the Thornlie-Cockburn line information page is finally up. I've been checking for this like 10 times a day over the last few weeks, so glad it's finally here. This is some really nice branding here as well with the combining of those letters. A bit more effort than the Ellenbrook line one, as well as actually on the main page here they have this. Like, what is that? It's so weird. Okay, I'm back. I just had to send that to the Discord as well because this is so funny. You know, on the last few openings they've always just had, oh well, Yanchep was more stations, more beaches, new Yanchep line. Then Ellenbrook was just paint the town red and just red. And now this. Who came up with this? What is this? Work, home, condensed. Like, WOM doesn't even mean anything. They just had to come up with something completely random. But anyway, let's stop focusing on the branding. Let's take a look at the actual information that we finally have. The new Thornlie-Cockburn line provides more transport options for Perth's southeastern suburbs. With new connections to Stadium Station, Perth Station and a cross-link from east to west, there's never been a better time to travel in Perth. Whether you're headed to work or uni or an event or out to meet friends and family, we've got your travel covered. Stations along the line include new stations at Nicholson Road and Ranford Road and upgraded stations at Thornlie and Cockburn Central and Perth Stadium, really. And then we have the map here, which looks pretty nice. This is from the new system map which they've made, which actually note up here is 2026. So what does that mean? Byford's not opening until like next year at some point? I don't know, but that's the new map. Also, why is it last? Thornlie-Cockburn line is before Yanchep line alphabetically. Another lazy point. But other than that, this is the best system map we've had so far. They've got all the high-frequency bus routes in it, including the new Bull Creek to Cannington 925, which we'll take a look at later. They fixed it over here because before it had the 910 going through Brochure and not the 915, so they fixed that. The only thing that I still criticize on this map is Baile not being after the curve. Noranda, I mean, yeah, they're counting as bus interchange now, so even on the train map, so whatever. That's fine, I guess. But also the 970 not being shown. It goes above, beyond Murdoch since Ellenbrook line open to Lansdale. But where are you going to put it? Like, there's not even a bus station, so it would just be such a weird line. But anyway, other than that, this map is basically perfect. So that's that. And they fixed this bit as well here between Perth and Elizabeth Quay. It's shared now instead of being two separate lines, so people won't be confused that you have to change lines there. But anyway, sorry I said that again. Thornlie-Cockburn line train services will operate every 15 minutes during peak times. Every 15 minutes during the day, every 30 minutes at night. So it's literally 15 minutes all day. I mean, this was already kind of expected because they really don't have enough trains to run a higher frequency. And when the full Armadale line reopens, there's going to be even more trains between Perth and Cannington for the Armadale line, which means there'd really be less space for the TCL trains. So it's just staying as it will be in the future when they won't even have the capacity to increase it further for a while until high capacity signaling. So they've just put it 15 minutes from the start while we're in the rail car shortage as well, which is weird because no other line doesn't get an increase in frequency in peak. I mean, Vic Park line didn't either, but it had a high frequency all day. So that's really bad for Thornlie, Nicholson, Ranford to have 15-minute service. But that's what it was before for Thornlie anyway, before the shutdown, so whatever. It's just really an extension of the Thornlie line, getting people off from buses and more onto the train for a further distance. And of course, Beckenham station will be reopening as well, but only on the Thornlie-Cockburn line, while the Armadale line will run as a shuttle also every 15 minutes between Perth and Cannington, because the siding's after that. So that's weird that Beckenham is going to get half the frequency until later when the full Armadale line reopens. But whatever. And all trains stopping at Perth Stadium as well, as it has been for a year now, but it's just never been with the full line opening. Instead of Vic Park shuttle, we're now getting Cannington shuttle. And also you can see Carlisle marked as a bus interchange now, which I originally thought was a mistake on the train maps, but you'll see later in the bus maps it's actually supposed to be one now. And Welshpool gone, of course, only Queen's Park in between there. So that's that. We take a quick look at the brochure. This was actually released 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, so a bit earlier than the rest of this, but it's just a bit of a different way. You can look at this yourself if you want. Nothing really special here. You got all the bus information, which was a bit of a sneak peek beforehand, although there's a mistake. Here it says there's only 8 routes to Ranford Road, even though it's also got the 73, which they completely forgot about, and I thought that it was not going to come, but then it did. It was just a mistake. And these weird journey times: 27 minutes to Perth, 26 from Perth, 31 to Perth, 29 from Perth. That's the speed restriction between Perth and Mackivor, which is weird. They've given it 3 minutes to get from Mackivor to Perth. So strange. So it's a bit uneven. 1,000 car bays at Nicholson, but only 400 at Ranford. And the system map right there. And then all this stuff where they said what you can do in the city. Everything is like a major destination. Crown, Northbridge, Whiteman Park, Mandurah, Optus Stadium. But then they have Carousel Shopping Centre. I mean, that's still major. Okay, that's okay. Like, that's still acceptable. The airport, beaches. Final thing. Enjoy fresh products from Canning Vale markets. And that's literally only on Saturdays. They just had to find a way to promote Ranford Road Station. And that's it. Okay. So moving on from that, we'll scroll down now. A new bus network has been introduced to efficiently connect the surrounding suburbs to the train stations, which we will look at. Here we go. Nicholson Road Station is between Thornlie and Ranford, approximately 27 minutes from the CBD. It's got these things and these bus routes. We'll take a look at the bus routes later, so we're not going to look at it now. And Ranford Road is 31 minutes, and same thing really. And that's just general information. So that's this page, the opening page, but there's 2 more pages to look at. So next we have the original Armadale line shutdown page, which has now been updated to state that trains will be running on the Armadale line between Perth and Cannington from the 9th of June. Train replacement bus routes, or just replacement routes, 230, limited stops from Perth Busport to Thornlie, and 908, which was Victoria Park to Cannington, will be withdrawn. Other buses will remain. Just changed, obviously. So there's that diagram. Yep, train services between Perth and Cannington will run on an increased frequency of 7.5 minutes during the day and 15 minutes in the evening. So that's just like Vic Park Shuttle was. But like before it got changed to 10 minutes. But you'll see there's actually a bit of an oddity with that when we look at the train timetable later. There are some bus timetables. Thornlie-Cockburn line stations may now be an option for some passengers, with buses operating from Thornlie-Nicholson Road in Ranford. And then you can click on every station individually and it gives you how to get from it or nearby it to Perth, Armadale and Westfield Carousel. Apparently the 3 most important destinations along the Armadale line are the city, Armadale, because the end of the line, but whatever, and Westfield Carousel. It is, but it doesn't need to be listed under every single one, as well as the stadium. So there's just that information. I'm not going to read through everything because we'll sit here for way too long. And it's already going to be a long video when I delve into the bus routes later. And that's just the general stuff that's always been here. Just changes to Optus Stadium services. Train replacement bus routes between Armadale and Cannington. Beckenham passengers can catch a Thornlie-Cockburn line train as well. 651 and 660 are being withdrawn. You have to use 907. And 656 will be moving to Southlands Boulevard Shopping Centre in Willetton now instead of Livingston Marketplace in Canning Vale, since you can just take the train from Ranford Road, which I thought it might be fully withdrawn, but luckily not. It's still going to be serving Willetton, so that's good. 661 though, not making a return. I mean, I didn't expect it to. The route to the city that got withdrawn before Armadale line shut, but they removed it because they had to facilitate 651, so, but yeah, it's not coming back. And these are just the general FAQs, which have really been here all the time. It just has been changed to say Cannington to Perth is open. Okay, that's it for that. Now, this is the main page, the service changes page. So, we're obviously still looking at the trains first, which we know Armadale line services will resume between Victoria Park and Cannington stations. Beckenham will be open for Thornlie-Cockburn line services only. Perth Stadium event services will depart from the Eastern Concourse on the new lines, and all trains will be stopping at Perth Stadium. And Mandurah line direct services will run between Mandurah and Cockburn Central stations, then stopping at Ranford Road, Nicholson Road, and Thornlie, and then express to Perth Stadium before and after events. So that's interesting. That was always the question, what the Mandurah line direct trains were going to be. 6-car trains, will they only go to Cockburn, then express to the stadium? Will they stop at all the new 6-car platforms up to Carlisle and then just skip Vic Park and Burswood to the stadium? Or will it be something else? And in fact, the answer is something else. They will be only serving the unique TCL stations, except Beckenham, which currently will be a unique TCL station, but later it'll be shared. So that's really weird, because the stations between Thornlie and Cockburn will receive, I mean, if there'll still be Thornlie-Cockburn trains running, which is what I'm assuming, that those stations will receive both Thornlie-Cockburn line trains and Mandurah line trains. Stations between Perth Stadium and Cannington will receive both Thornlie-Cockburn line trains and Cannington trains, so they're still on like a 7-8 minute frequency. But then Beckenham Station, only Beckenham Station, is going to get 15-minute frequency, with both the Mandurah train skipping it and the Armadale train not going there. So bad. Just one station is going to get 15-minute frequency or whatever, just only one line, Thornlie-Cockburn line, after stadium events, which is so sad for them. I mean, I guess they get train replacement bus routes as well, so they can choose, but with the 907, yeah. It's going to be so crazy, like, if you, it's going to be marked as Mandurah line, just going on the Armadale sections there, if you search it on the app. And yes, that's that. Now, let's take a look at the new train timetables. This is what we're all familiar with, just an example here, Yanchip line. Yep, we've seen this kind of design for years now. We're so used to it. It looks so nice. Well, ba-bum! This is the new timetable. What is this? Everything is just becoming more white and white as time goes on. With first the buses, then the high-frequency buses, now the trains. Almost fully white except the top. Lists it like this with all the bus interchanges, and then having other line on it. Some stations are serviced by multiple lines. Elizabeth Quay, Perth Underground. That is so weird. This is the same train anyway. And then it's got this little legend and then lists everything. But the timetables haven't changed for any lines other than the Armadale, obviously, and Thornlie-Cockburn. So nothing else really here has changed. Just at the end they've had to change some of the platforms up, of course, which is also weird. You're going to see later. So that's the Yanchip line timetable. This is the Midland line timetable. So weird with the Ellenbrook and Airport, and then also Armadale, Thornlie-Cockburn there. I guess it's gotten to a point where the trail network is now so overcomplicated compared to what it was before that they've had to start showing other lines to make sense of it. But it just looks really not that great in my opinion. And then it just says stations between Perth and Bayswater are serviced by multiple train lines. And there's the legend, and then of course you can refer to the composite timetables like this one. That's for Perth to Claremont, or the Perth to Bayswater one, which is everything there. I'll get rid of that. This is the Mandurah one. Having Thornlie-Cockburn coming in from the side, which looks also so weird, but we'll keep that one open because it's much more relevant for later. Fremantle line and the Airport line next to it. Which, why is that E bigger than that one? Oh yeah, because they're showing that that's not the main line, but it just looks wrong. That's that. And Airport line. This one looks the worst of all because it's got the shared sections in the middle. Looks so weird. And Ellenbrook line. And then they've also made Perth to Cannington composite now, which makes sense. Trains on the Armadale and Thornlie-Cockburn lines, because that's now a shared section between two different lines. Although I still think they really should indicate which line it is, not just nothing. Like half of these trains are terminating at Cannington, half are not. And that also means which ones are emptier. And yeah, but this one still has the old, these still have the old design on the front page, which is nice. Okay, now this is the actual Thornlie-Cockburn line timetable. The Mandurah line on the side here and the shared sections there. Services are served by multiple lines between Perth and Cannington and Cockburn Central. And it's got all those lines there, every single line except Yanchep, which also is very strange. Or... oh, no, Fremantle's not on there either, even though it continues from Midland, but it's just not shown. And this is the timetable. So, as I said, it's running every 15 minutes. 15 minutes all day, that is. It's just got these weird P patterns here, which you might think, oh, we actually got some patterns again. Nope, it's just departs from platform 6 at Perth Station, like the old C hashtag pattern or C sharp pattern on the Armadale line. Now they're actually denoting which services depart from platform 6, which I don't understand why. I mean, no, I do. They're making room for future Armadale line services, which will be running into the city onto platform 5 in the morning. But why do you have to already do that now? So much future-proofing again. These services here, 7:26 to 8:26 for an hour, they'll be departing from platform 6, while platforms 5 and 4 will be for Armadale line services. I guess in the afternoon, the peak hour Armadale line services will just depart from platform 6 then, because they're all going from normal platform here, which should be platform 5. So there's that, nothing really special. They do have late night trains on Friday nights with the services at 12:41 and 1:41, not the usual times we're used to. I mean, is that what the Ellenbrook ones are? I don't know. It's around that, but there's the whole thing. Stopping patterns to Perth via Thornlie. Wait, what does this one say? Stopping patterns to Cockburn Central via Thornlie. That's good, but why does this say to Thornlie-Cockburn? It makes it sound like that's a suburb, Thornlie-Cockburn. No, to Cockburn Central via Thornlie. But yeah, that's that one. Here's the Armadale one. Same thing. It's still got the bus information for the closed sections and the timetable. But there's such a weird thing. What is this? 7:03 a.m. on a Saturday. P also departs from Perth platform 6 and nothing else. Once a week, there's a scheduled Cannington shuttle service from platform 6. Why? On a Saturday? This is the one I don't understand. Why? What does this give you? It's so weird. And also, here's the codes for the platform, right? 9900, that's Perth, and then 4 and 5, that's what those platforms mean, which they shouldn't really be going from 5. I think some of the peak hour services in the future, when there's more of them, will be going from 5, because Thornlie-Cockburn's on 5. I don't know. Mainly, it should be Cannington Shuttle on platform 4 and TCL on platform 5. But then here in the TCL timetable, it says 8. Excuse me? That's the Midland Airport Ellenbrook line platform. Have they made another mistake already? Platform like 8 in the code. It's obviously not. But yeah, if you scroll down, you can see on here it says platform 4 and 5, Armadale line to Cannington, which I don't get when they're going to be going from 5, because that's the TCL platform. And then platform 6 and 5, Thornlie-Cockburn line, okay. Yes, that's correct. But it should be 4 and 6 for Armadale line, because you see that one service there. And in the future, maybe. I don't know. A bit weird. This is really confusing. It's not platform 5 that's shared, it's platform 6 that's shared. It should be separated, which is so strange, because platform 5 used to be the Armadale trains, and platform 4 used to be the Thornlie trains. Now it's going to be the other way around. And it might stay like that forever, because, or at least for a long time, because Thornlie-Cockburn line trains are supposed to become 6 cars before Armadale line trains do. Even though Armadale's going to have a higher frequency, so that's just weird. They're planning more than 4 trains per hour in peak on Armadale line, but only 4 trains per hour on Thornlie-Cockburn line. But it's still going to be 6 cars for Thornlie-Cockburn line eventually first, because they have more platforms equipped for that, and I guess if they have lower frequency, I might as well have longer trains instead. But yeah, that's future worries. It's just this weird P pattern service. And the other thing, which I was saying before I would point out to you, look at this. If you go to peak hour here, 5 p.m., look at the services. Every 15 minutes, 2:33, 2:48, 3:08, 3:18, 3:33, 3:48, that's fine. 4:03, 4:18, and as soon as peak hour starts, 4:36. So it's 15-minute gaps all day until here. Then there's a random 18-minute gap. And then it's 15-minute frequency, 4:51, 5:06, 5:21. And then there's a 12-minute gap, 5:33. And then it's back to 15-minute frequency on these times at 33:48, like it was before. Just here in peak hour, they've changed it to be at 51:36. Now I think this is because this is where they're planning to slot in the extra trains during peak hour in the future, in between the 4:18 and 4:36 service. So they've already provisioned for that to exist. But that's so stupid now, because if you look at the TCL timetable, it's got 4:26, 4:41. So that means after the 4:26 service, which is in peak, there is actually a 10-minute gap until the 4:36 service, and then a 5-minute gap to the 4:41 service. This is like west of Perth since the Ellenbrook line opened. You have Fremantle train, airport train, or whatever the order is. And then you have a gap, right? Because the Ellenbrook line train terminates at Perth. 10-minute gap. So as we've always been complaining, they've changed it from being 7-8-minute frequency to Subiaco, or whatever, just in that direction, to 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And now they've done the same thing here for the Armadale line, but just like a few times a day, in peak. That is the worst thing, especially because the frequency doesn't change. It's 15 minutes. That means the gap between trains, the biggest gap between trains during the daytime, is in peak. 10-minute gap, when it's normally 7-8, 7-8. But there's just this weird 10-minute gap. I know it's only a few minutes, but just that's such a weird thing that the gap is biggest in peak. Why? It's so sad. They could have changed this later to accommodate for extra trains, not now. It's so bad. Bigger gap in peak than off peak, and weekends as well. Like, what? Frequency on weekends is the same as weekdays anyway. Like, what? That is mind-boggling. Just a weird extra fact. And it's the same thing in morning peak in the other direction, if we can find it. Wait, maybe not with this line, but maybe it's on the TCL, but I saw something similar in morning peak, so it's just terrible to know that that's a thing. Maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, just a little thing there. Now, the last thing to take a look at with the trains is the connections at Cockburn Central. Oh yeah, and also the Friday night trains are actually later on the Cannington shuttle, 2:15 a.m., 1:11 a.m. Also, why is it 1:11? Why is it not 1:15 like the Yanchep and Mandurah lines are? That used to be how it'd be. All the lines used to depart at the same time. Midland, Fremantle, Armadale, Yanchep, Mandurah, or Joondalup at that time. They all used to depart 1:15 a.m. and 2:15 a.m. Then they introduced Big Park Shuttle, Airport Line, Ellenbrook Line. Now there's other times as well. But why 1:11? Why is it not 1:15? I guess it's coordinating with TCL timetable. But yes, 2:15 exists on the Cannington shuttle, but not on the Thornlie-Cockburn line. So there's actually more late service for up to Cannington than beyond Cannington. The last train reaches Cannington on the TCL at 1:59, before even 2 a.m. So that's strange. But anyway, moving on from that now. Last thing to look at with the trains before we move into the buses is how the connection actually is at Cockburn Central, because this is now a major thing. You know, with no delays, how well can you connect between the trains? So, if you are, we're going to do peak, off-peak, and weekends. So, if you are on the Thornlie-Cockburn line in off-peak, so in the middle of the day, let's take this first 12 after PM service, for example, reaching Cockburn Central at 12:47 PM, the Mandurah line train to Mandurah will be leaving at 12:54 PM. So that's good. That's 7-minute frequency, a bit of a buffer for delays. You can easily change. But imagine you're coming into to Cockburn Central on that 12:54 service, and you want to go to, I don't know, Ranford Road. I know not many people will be doing that, but anyway, if you did, it leaves at 12:54 12:55. See? 12:55. 1 minute. There's like no leniency for this. Off peak, you have 1 minute to switch from southbound Mandurah to Thornlie-Cockburn line. I know that'll be the less common move to do than Thornlie-Cockburn line to southbound Mandurah, but still, 1 minute. So really, if you wanted to make that, you have to be in the very back carriage and then sprint. I mean, at least it's still technically possible. So that's that. And now connections with northbound Mandurah line in off-peak. It's going to take a while to look through all this. So let's take this service, 12:10, gets to Cockburn Central at 12:44. And yes, see, it just leaves at 12:40, and then the next one is 12:55. So you actually have 11 minutes. So that's pretty bad to have to wait 11 minutes. Like, that's going to be a more common thing to do if you're coming from anywhere like Quinana, Wellard, Rockingham, want to go to Carousel or even just Stadium when there's no direct trains running, such as on a weekday probably. You got to wait 11 minutes in off-peak, which is not that great. And then the connection for going northbound coming in on the TCL is over here. Where is it? Oh yeah, gotta go back up here. Coming in on the TCL at 12:47, as we said before, and the train is at 12:59. So that is also quite a wait. You will just miss the 12:44 service, and you have to wait 12 minutes. So connections northbound in both switching from Mandurah to Thornlie-Cockburn or from Thornlie-Cockburn to Mandurah are not that great. Directions, interchanges in the other direction are somewhat reasonable, especially from Thornlie-Cockburn to Mandurah, but switching from Mandurah to Thornlie-Cockburn, you got 1 minute. But that's off-peak. Now, let's look at peak. So peak's obviously different because the frequency on the Mandurah line is different. Not on the Thornlie-Cockburn line, though, as we've emphasized before. So if we go up to southbound journeys, sorry, I know this is taking a while, but it's just, this is going to be a really major aspect of how we use these lines. So let's say we're coming into Cockburn Central at 5, no, because that's already going to be in the 5-minute frequency period. 4:47, there's going to be a train at 4, yeah, see, you're just going to miss the 4:45. Then there's going to be a Cockburn terminating Mandurah line train, so you're going to have to skip out on that one, 4:55. So it's an 8-minute wait, which is similar to off-peak, but not that great. And if you came in on either the 4:45 or the 4:55, there's, yeah, look, it leaves at the same time. It leaves at 4:55, so that's even worse. Like, you've got 0 minutes to switch, basically impossible. And if you come on the 4:45, you have a 10-minute wait. So that's not great either. But obviously later when it's 5-minute frequency after 5 p.m. it's much easier. You get there at every like even 5-minute time, 30, 35, 40, 45, and then you can just with every second train have a reasonable connection, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And if you're coming in from Thornlie-Cockburn line, it should be almost perfect. You have 3 minutes, look at that. 3 minutes with any of these trains. That is so weird. For every 3 Mandurah line trains in 5-minute frequency time, there will only be 1 Thornlie-Cockburn line train coming in, and even in 10-minute frequency time, but with the Cockburn shuttles. So strange. So that's those connections, and I think weekend should probably be the same as off-peak, as we mentioned before. So we don't need to look at it again. If it's the same, let's see, 12:11, 12:11. 12:47. Just a quick check. 12:54. Yeah, it should be the same. So off-peak and weekend should be the same. I don't know why I said we're going to look at 3 things. What I was saying before should be the same. Oh, well, there is 3 things because we can look at nighttime on the lines as well. So like when it's 30-minute frequency on the lines. So let's take a look at being on the 10 or 9:56 service, for example, reaching Cockburn Central at 10:32, which you can see that it's actually quite a long line. Like, it's really longer than I thought. It's 30, 37, 36 or so minutes, which is crazy. Like, imagine you come to Cockburn Central wanting to go to Perth, you just miss a Mandurah line train in off-peak or weekend. The next one is 15 minutes away. And even if there's a Thornlie-Cockburn line train right there about to leave in 1 minute, it's still going to take 37 minutes to get to Perth, which is way longer than if you just wait 15 minutes and then take the 18-minute journey into Perth. It's still less time than the 37 minutes. Although if you're going to like Northbridge or actual above ground Perth station, it's still probably more convenient to take the Thornlie-Cockburn line, and it feels like you're moving, but it's just longer than I thought. It's like 34 kilometers or so via Thornlie on the Thornlie-Cockburn line. But yes, let's say you got to Mandurah at Cockburn Central at 10:32. Train should be there at 10:35. See, so here it looks like they have been thinking about this, which is good, because when it's 30-minute frequency, it should definitely be connecting properly. So if there's no delays, you have 3 minutes switch there, and if you just got off the Mandurah line at 10:35, the train then leaves at 10:40. So that is perfect. That is how it always should be, but I guess it's just not feasible to make that work during the day. But when it's 30-minute frequency in the evenings, they have made it work out perfectly to connect between the lines, but not really perfectly in terms of, oh, I just got to like Cockburn Central, oh, there's still 25 minutes until the next train to Perth if you missed this Thornlie-Cockburn one. Or no, that's not to Perth, that's southbound. Sorry, never mind. Let me check the Perth, how that connection is. 10:51. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's kind of bad in that direction. You have to wait 19 minutes if you want to switch from northbound Mandurah line to Thornlie-Cockburn line in those times, and you have to wait. What did we say it was again? 10:32. You have to wait. Oh, also 19. Is it? No, what? Yep, apparently in both directions you have to wait 19 minutes. So if you're connecting with northbound Mandurah line trains in either direction, you have to wait 19 minutes in the nighttime 30-minute frequency, which is terrible. That is bad. I don't want to think about that. But if you are connecting in that direction, it's very good, as we saw before. But yeah, say you rock up at Cockburn Central at like 10:45, you'll get a Mandurah line train at 10:51. If you miss that one, then the next option is a Thornlie-Cockburn line train at 11:10, but that gets to the city at 11:46. Now if you keep waiting for the 11:21 service, that's still going to get to the city earlier at 11:40. So even during the 30-minute frequency, you can't just say, oh, I'm using the Thornlie-Cockburn line to get to Perth faster as an alternative option. No, it's still slower, even during the 30-minute frequency. So only during the really end of the day, when it's hourly frequency, might it be a better option. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. But that's not the purpose. It's not supposed to be an alternative option to Perth, of course, because it's so much of a longer way. It's to connect to the southeastern suburbs and Cannington and Thornlie and all the new stations and whatever. Stadium. Okay, so that's that. We're no more talking about the trains now, really. That's enough. It'll be interesting to see how it goes when we have the Mandurah direct trains as well and all of that stuff. But now we shall move into the buses, because that has already been way too long talking about the trains. Although this is one of the biggest changes with the train network, finally having an east-west connection and an interchange station outside of, well, now we already have Bayswater, but I mean like interchange station outside of Perth, where you can go two separate ways towards Perth. Yeah. So let's look at the buses now. So obviously there's a massively reformed bus network as part of these changes, as it usually is with any train line opening. This is the original map that we got in January for the consultation. I didn't make a video at the time because I was in Malaysia, and it's just a consultation. I don't always make a video on the consultation. Sometimes I do, like with the Ellenbrook, which was really highly anticipated, but for the Yanchep one I didn't, so I didn't for this either. This is the consultation, which is usually mostly accurate as to what the final thing is, apart from anyone who complains significantly and then stuff changes. So I'll refer back to this map if I want to show you things overall, because not much has changed, but a few things have, which I'll point out along the way. So let's take a look. Routes 24 to 75. These are just some minor changes of stand changes, time changes. 30 and 31 moving to timetable number 1, which is cool. Before it was the 204, 205 Maddington to Murdoch, which are now renumbered. 32, 33, time changes, stand changes, time changes, stand changes, and also changing to go to Cannington Station, which I don't know if that'll be ready, because at the time of recording, which is only a month and a few days away from opening, I don't think they still haven't started construction in Cannington new bus interchange under the station, next to the station. So really they have a month to get it done and decommission the temporary Cannington bus station then, so hope they can get it done. 36, which was introduced with the shutdown Airport Central to Cannington, is staying. Very, very nice, because that is a great connection to the southeast areas from the airport, even though it is only on weekdays. But good, it's staying, just moving, no longer Swan Transit. It's going to be Path Transit. So that's the 36 to Cannington. 37, this is terrible, is moving back to Oats Street Station. No, why? I liked it going to Curtin University. It was so cool. It provided connections to other routes which are at Curtin University, a connection for Curtin students to get to the airport, and just generally a useful extra route between like the train line and Shepperton Road and Curtin University in case you missed the circle route. Even in fact, it could be used as a way to get to the eastern suburbs like High Wycombe, Midland even, from Curtin University. A cool connection up to the train up there, which I know people do that, so it's really, really sad that that's moving back. They only moved it there after the shutdown, because originally they just moved it to Albany Highway, but then they're like, oh, we can't really terminate so many buses here, let's just move it to the nearest bus station. But now they're moving it back to Oat Street, even though this map here said the following routes are not proposed to change. 37, I mean, it said significantly, but still, shortening it is quite a significant change. Okay. Next we have Route 38, which has improved connections to Carlisle Station. Yes, that's what I said before. Carlisle is marked as bus interchange, and I thought that was a mistake, but apparently not. Apparently it actually is going to be properly timed there, marked as an interchange, especially if we go to the timetable. Yeah, so here I just had to find it, sorry. This is the timetable for 38 and 36 and 37, which we've just been talking about with the whole map. 37 back to Oat Street, as I said, unfortunate. But, oh gosh, it's so complicated. 39 to Redcliffe, Airport Central, Oat Street. But here we have Carlisle. You can see marked as bus interchange, which I don't think it ever has been before. The closest route before was the 284 Deviation service, but now that the station's actually moved to be like right next to Mint Street, like actually next to it, not several hundred meters away, it's actually marked as a bus interchange. You can see Carlisle Station stand 1. It actually has stands as well, or at least stand numbers for each side of the road. So that's good. Proper connections, proper timing with the buses there. The unfortunate thing is though, the routes will be operating on a reduced frequency, because they originally increased the frequency when the shutdown started for serving those areas. Even with 39, I think it has really high frequency at the moment. It's like every 15 minutes, I think, even on weekends. So that's not going to be happening anymore. Let's see, it's 30 here again. Where were we? Oh yes, so both those two being reduced. 51 also staying, which was introduced with the shutdown, which is great because we never had a route directly along Oran Road before the shutdown, like all the way along. Now it is, and it's staying, so that's good. I know that's a really busy route, especially with people getting on and off through the Queen's Park kind of area north of the station. 72, no major changes really, just going to Cannington, and some city stand changes. And then 73 is the new 75 renumbered, which I really don't get the point of renumbering it, just to make it sequential after 72, after all this time, which it's always been 72 and 75, which seem like very nice numbers. Like, what's the point of changing it? It really isn't. It's so dumb. I'm just going to lose its branding. 75 withdrawn, replaced by 73. It's basically the exact same thing, just that it goes to Ranford Road Station instead of the now closed anyway Canning Vale bus depot. It used to go to the bus depot, at the end of Bannister Road, which closed a month or so ago. Now all the buses moved to Jandakot, so there's really no point of going there. You'll just go to Ranford Road here, which was actually going to be the only route to terminate at Ranford Road until they introduced a new one as well, which I'll show you in a moment. So other than that, it's the same, except this section through here has been removed on these streets. But I'm not going to go into detail about that because I have already filmed all those changes when this consultation was released, actually in real life on the street with the buses passing through, and I'll release those videos over the next month so you can see that and see all the spots for the last time. Okay, moving on, Route 100, moving to Cannington Station. Yep, 111, that's just some stand changes. New Route 176 will operate between Elizabeth Quay Bus Station and Oats Street Station via Albany Highway. Select trips will continue from Oats Street as 282 and 283 to Kalamunda. So this is really weird. Operating every 15 minutes in peak, 30 minutes during the day, and on weekends, public holidays. So at the moment, Route 282 and 283 go from Elizabeth Quay to all the way to Kalamunda and go along Shepperton Road and then go past Oat Street, or well, not at the moment, they go on Swansea Street East, but anyway, to Kalamunda. Now, they've actually consolidated those two routes into this new 176, which will actually go via Albany Highway, which is good because at the moment, Albany Highway only has the 220 beyond a certain point where most of the other routes branch off, so it's really bad even though it's such a popular destination. So it's good to increase that, although that also means Shepperton Road loses service on what is currently one of the busiest bus corridors with the shutdown. It's going to have almost no routes except 930 and 38 for a small section, but yeah. And every 282 and 283 will then continue to the city as a 176, so they're not really losing out on that. It's just going to be a bit slower going along Albany Highway. But not every 176 will continue to Kalamunda, so they've really increased the frequency between Oat Street and the city and providing even more service options along St. George's Terrace, Adelaide Terrace, and Albany Highway, which you can see on the map again. 282, 283 coming in, turning around there, and then 176 going up and continuing to the city. Now, back to this. 177, time changes, going to Cannington, city stand changes, that's normal. 178, time changes, city stand changes. Yeah, no changes to that, even though honestly that route is like so long, servicing as a local route in Shelley, Rossmoyne, as well as connecting to the city, and then residents from Shelley and Rossmoyne can't even get directly to the train line or Cannington, Carousel or anything, which is kind of bad. You have to switch to other routes, but I guess they don't have the resources to accommodate for everyone. And 179, also not much change, except there's going to be fewer trips because some new routes will provide better options. And speaking of those new routes, so 179 was Perth to Bull Creek to Cannington. Now the new routes are 200 over here, which is on this map. I don't think it's changed. So it will go here along Leach Highway and then High Road and then up through here, which is the same spot that the 179 goes anyway, and to Cannington Station. So the 179 currently goes from Elizabeth Quay and then along through these sections and also on this same alignment through here into Bull Creek, while the 509 connects to Cannington. So the 200 is just basically a direct replacement of the 509. And then 201 is also going to go along High Road, but it's going to continue for the entire length of High Road all the way down to Nicholson Road, replacing the terminus of the 506, which is currently a peak hour only service terminating right here on High Road before Nicholson Road. It's just going to continue through there and then going over to Nicholson Road Station. So that's a very direct route between Bull Creek and Nicholson Road, a good connection there. You'll see that service as well in real life videos. The current 201, which is between Curtin University and Cannington only a few times a day and deviating via work power, is going to be renumbered to 222. No changes to anything to do with it though. Yep. And 202 will be between Bull Creek and Cannington via Apsley Road and Ferndale Crescent, every 30 minutes during the day, 60 on weekends. So this is a replacement of 508 through Ferndale here to replace that section. But then 508, where does it go? Oh no, yeah, I think it does go there. I think it's a direct replacement of the 508. Yes, it is, I just checked. So that's not much change. 203, Bull Creek to Cannington. This one is a bit of a strange one. So mainly it's actually replacing the 506 sections here along Velgrove Avenue, which will no longer be served, as well as the 75, which turned in here before, which is now gone because the 73 just goes straight. So this one will duplicate as what the current 508 is, future 202, but then turn down, join up with the current 507, future, not 204 actually, that's a different thing I'm going to tell you in a moment, but coming up here, and then just this is the unique section replacing that 506 section, but then once it gets to High Road, instead of terminating there, like the 506 did, it's going to turn left and replace sections of the 507 at the moment, which are going to be removed because it's going to become a much more direct route, and then connect onto Nicholson Road instead of going back up to Metcalfe Road and going to Cannington Station. So that's kind of a completely new route, just to replace two separate removed sections of 506 and 507, and then going to Bull Creek. Now 204 is current one being replaced by 209, and the new one is something completely different to this, because the 204 in here is currently what the 507 is, except this bit on Metcalfe Road, which currently goes here where the 203 is, as I just said. It's going to take this more direct route now, so it's a bit faster, and it's going to become the 925. Yes, it's going to become a new high frequency bus route, yet another new one, because it already had really high frequency. It was every 15 minutes weekdays and Saturdays, I think. Just Sundays it was 30. Now Sundays is going to become 15 as well. So it's going to meet high frequency standards. I'm honestly surprised that's such a busy route, but it's going to meet that. And then Bull Creek to Cannington will be a high frequency route, which is what I showed you before on the system map. Meanwhile, the new 204 is actually a completely new addition, which wasn't on this consultation, operating between Nicholson Road and Ranford Road stations, which is the only route to only operate between those two stations and nowhere else of all these new ones. And it's going to turn up here. It's going to be peak hours only though, and then go into Bannister Road. Then it's going to go into this road here, which is Baile Road. You can see how far away that actually is from any other bus route. You'd have to walk all the way up there to the 205. This is an industrial area, which pretty strange it's being served like that, but it is peak hours only. It's kind of like the 363 that was introduced with the Ellenbrook line. So yeah, and then it'll connect back to where the 205 is, but then instead of going to Murdoch like this future 205 does, it'll just turn back down and to Ranford. So all those people in that industrial area can be connected to either train station on either end, and there's actually an option to get from Bannister Road to Ranford Road from well, not Bannister, but, well, this section of Bannister, but Baile Road, because 73 exists anyway, so, yeah. And you can see peak periods only approximately every 30 minutes, in both directions, though. Yep. Okay. Now, 205. So 204 and 205 are currently two routes between Maddington and Murdoch, which are very similar, except one little section, which is kind of through this area here, along here. Oh, yeah, I think, is it through here? Somewhere around here. Oh no. Anyway, I filmed the exact section, but they're very similar except that one section. Most of the unique sections of the 205 actually, which is like the whole reason that that route exists for those streets there, are actually being removed. No more service on that section, and instead it's just going to be the 209 going to Murdoch as a direct replacement of the current 204. Yeah, so I just had to do a detailed check, but yeah, the sections are being removed. So those 205 unique sections are gone. 209 replaces 204. Meanwhile, there'll still be a second route from Maddington along Burslem Drive and Wharton Road, which will be the 210. But then it'll turn up Garden Street instead of going into the street where the 205 used to go, and then go over to Nicholson Road Station. So that's a bit of a new connection between Nicholson Road and Ranford Road. Maddington, sorry. And also, if you go into the timetable of those routes, which I forgot which one it is. There we go, I found it. You can see Maddington Station is actually marked as a bus interchange with stand numbers now. Yes, before it was just random stops on the road, but now it actually says stand 1. And then stand 2 for terminating, for opposite sides of the road. So that's good. It's actually properly being branded as a bus interchange as well. Okay, continuing on. That is blah blah blah. 205. Oh yeah. So the new 205 will be between Murdoch and Nicholson Road via Bannister Road, which is the one we were talking about before, through the industrial area, replacing most of the 208, the current 208, and also still with the Good Samaritan Industries deviation. It's a weekday only route, 15 minutes in peak, 60 minutes during the day, and you can see the deviating trips. Then 206, which is the current very long one from Cannington to Murdoch Uni, as well as short trips to Thornlie during the shutdown, will be withdrawn, replaced by new routes. So mainly it's 202. Okay, there's actually lots of new routes. So first of all, between Cannington and Thornlie, it's going to be the 208, which is almost the same alignment, except it doesn't go along the whole bit of Langford Avenue. 3 stops here, which are actually rather busy stops from my experience, are all being removed. It's going to instead go via a new alignment on Brookman Avenue, View Avenue, and Spencer Road, which means that this right turn onto Nicholson Road is eliminated, because that's very bad in peak hour, but it's always been like that for the 206. Now there's a new alignment there, so I filmed those stops, so that's that section. Then between Thornlie and Nicholson is going to be the 213, literally a straight line on Yale Road. One road, that's so short. Another crazy short route, it's like 5 minutes, maybe like a bit more, but that's that one. And then between Nicholson and Murdoch, it's going to be the 207, but the 207 also comes from Cannington, so it'll go all the way from Cannington. So basically, there's still a route from Cannington to Murdoch, but just different alignment. 207 goes into Nicholson Road, takes Nicholson Road all the way down, which is really nice to have a route all the way along. I mean, there already was the 208, but that wasn't as frequent and didn't operate on weekends, which the 207 will, yes. And every 15 minutes during the day as well. Wow, 10 minutes in peak. So it'll go all the way down, turn into Nicholson Road Station, come back out, serve the section of the 206 here being removed, then go to past Ranford Road Station, then continue to Murdoch and Murdoch University. So that is a crazy long route, staying even though the train line's open. Imagine the desto in that. It could be Murdoch Station via Nicholson Road Station. See, because they didn't change the name of the stations. Now it's just going to be via Nicholson Road Station and via Nicholson Road, which is so stupid, so confusing. Via Boardman Road, via Ranford Road Station, via Murdoch Station. Imagine if it actually settled that. It probably won't, but it's just funny. It goes via both Nicholson and Ranford Road and Murdoch. 3 train stations that it passes through that it doesn't terminate. So that's the 207 there. And then the new 206 is actually replacing the current 207. So that's really confusing. It's going to be traveling from Nicholson Road Station, not Thornlie like the 207 does at the moment, because that bit's already done there by the 213 anyway. And it's going to go here. Now, the current 207 just does this loop of the whole Eucalyptus Boulevard and then comes back out and goes past Livingston and up Ranford. But now instead, 206 is going to go all the way to the second entrance of Eucalyptus Boulevard and meet up with the future 207, turn into Eucalyptus Boulevard and do that loop backwards, then have a new section on Waratha Boulevard before going back out to Ranford Road and Ranford Road Station and continuing to Murdoch Uni. Now also I want to say the current 206 actually goes here where this new 208 is, so 208 somewhat replacing 206 there as well, and then it goes straight ahead here and onto Sugarwood Drive, which is going to be removed some stops, which were also people complaining about, but they haven't done anything about that. And then it connects here where the 207 is, so that's a bit of a different section there as well. But this bit here on Town Centre Drive is currently served by the 223, which is 2 or 3 times a day from Thornlie to just Thornlie suburb. And this bit's actually having service. They actually listen. Like when I was filming there, I saw posters saying, "Oh no, 223 being removed." I was like, what? People actually cared about this? And they actually listened to it. So the 208 is not going to go onto Murdoch Road like it's shown on here. Instead, it's going to go straight ahead here, continue on Town Centre Drive, replacing this small section of the 206 and all this section of the 223, and then normal beyond there. But it's not going to go here past this shop and having this very small shared section with the 214. No, it's just going to go behind there on Town Centre Drive, so replacing that section of the 223. But the last section of the 223, which was also part of the old 205, which was the one I was talking about before between Maddington and Murdoch, which had those extra sections, that's not being replaced. And then 208 also continues down and actually joins up with the 209, which is the other one from Maddington to Murdoch, to actually again double the amount of buses on this section of Campbell Road and then this small section of Ranford Road where the current 205 future 210 is being removed from, because 210 will go to Nicholson Road and then also all the way out to Murdoch Uni. And that one comes actually from Cannington as well, which is what I was saying before. The 208 replaces that section of it. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. The 213 is mainly a replacement of the 207 between Thornlie and Nicholson Road, while the 208 is replacing that bit and the 206 and all the way down. There. Yep. And then that goes to Murdoch Uni. Now, all those 205, 206, 207, 208 go to Murdoch Uni. It's just 209 that actually goes to Murdoch TAFE from Maddington, which before wasn't an option, as well as the current routes 517, 518 and 519, which aren't being changed, all going to Murdoch TAFE, except the fact that they'll actually turn into Ranford Road bus interchange when they pass it. Okay, sorry, I know that's such like just yap. I don't think you can keep up with what I'm saying most likely, but I'm just trying to get through it all, because reading this is just as confusing, so I guess it's a bit better if I'm talking. Let's see now. So we've talked about 206, we've talked about 207, we've talked about 208, we've talked about 209 and 210, 211. Oh yeah. So the current 210 and 211. So it's so confusing because they've just moved all the numbers somewhere else. Someone's gonna be so confused. Like so many people are gonna be so confused. The current 210 and 211 are between Thornlie stations and Gosnell stations, very direct routes via Corfield Street and Fremantle Road here. Why is Fremantle Road there? I don't know. I actually forgot which one's which one goes on which road. Doesn't matter. It's just, oh no, we can see. 211 will be replaced by 215. Okay, so 211 is the one that goes here, Corfield and Dorothy. So it's just going to be renumbered to 215, and the current 210 is going to be renumbered to 216. No changes though to the route or the frequency. Then the current 212 is between Thornlie and Southern River here, terminating at this shop, Bateman Road. That's also having no change, just being renumbered to the 214, as well as its extension trips to Southern River. There's a few extension trips, weird services. Those are also staying. I actually thought they'd be removed because they're really underused from what I've seen, but nope, they're staying, so no need to film that. While the new 212 will be another extremely short service between Thornlie Station and Nicholson Road on the other side of the tracks via Wilfred Road, which this is another replacement of the 206, but a once-a-day deviation. The current 206 has a once-a-day deviation via Wilfred Road, which I have filmed and I can link in the corner. And now this whole new route is being introduced between Thornlie and Nicholson Road via that section, because that's a really weird section of residential houses. It's between the train line and Row Highway, like just this small section. And now that is, so obviously hard to serve with buses, but now it's getting its own separate route. And then through this park as well, which is so weird, this section is through this like sporting complex. It's so weird. I want to film that as well. I mean, I will, obviously, because it's such an oddity route. But since it's just replacing something which is currently once a day, it's going to be 3 times a day. And it's not even in peak. It's just like between peak, 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. There's just 3 services every 2 hours. So bad. But I guess that's what you get when you live in between a train line and a highway. So that's the new 212, definitely one of the weirdest services being introduced, and very short. You can see weekdays only, approximately every 2 hours, even though it should just say 3 services. Okay, now 213 is replacing 207 between Thornlie and Nicholson, which is what I said before. Another short one on Yale Road. 214 I just talked about. 215 and 216 I just talked about. 210 and 211. 220 is staying the same. Perth to Armadale still having its frequency from the moment, not being changed back to what it was before the shutdown. But it'll now be the only route directly between Perth and Armadale, with 221 and 907 being shortened to terminate at Cannington station, where you can switch to trains. And yes, 221 is staying. There were a lot of people thinking it'll only be 907, but nope, 221 is staying for the more fast direct option, which is all the way along Albany Highway. So I'll just pull up this map if you don't know. It's going to leave Cannington, although I've seen there's actually some extra stops. So it leaves Cannington. There's a stop here, just so you can get to Carlisle on Cecil Avenue. Another stop around the corner where the current 221 stops from the city at Carlisle. But then it's just the same as the current 221, stopping at Kenwick, Maddington, Gosnells, Seaforth, Kelmscott, all along Albany Highway, just straight down without turning into any interchanges, and then express to Armadale station. Okay, 222 is the 201 from Curtin Uni to Cannington, which I was talking about before. 223 is the weird 3 times a day Thornlie to Thornlie suburb, being replaced by 208, yep, which is true, because that section there, before it would have basically just been fully withdrawn, but now that they've actually changed the 208 to accommodate for it, it is being replaced by it. 224 and 225 are again just renumbered routes 202 and 203, which are the Cannington circulars going from Carlisle to Cannington station and through East Cannington, anti-clockwise and clockwise. They're just going to become 224, 225, while 201 becomes 222. So they're still consecutive, but except 223 is just gone. No more 223. The current weird Thornlie one just doesn't exist in any form anymore, because all the numbers have been repurposed, which makes sense, because why were these routes like 5XX routes going to Bull Creek? Like, it's weird that 5XX routes were on this side of Kwinana Freeway to Bull Creek, so it makes sense to renumber it, but it's just going to be so confusing to get used to. It's like when they changed the 480, 481 and 482 between Clarkson and Butler and switched them all around. I'm still not used to that. Yeah, anyway, next, 228. These are not really changing, it's just departing from different stands. That's Thornlie to Gosnells, time changes. 229, time changes. Cannington, bus interchange. 230 is the limited stops at the moment due to the shutdown Perth to Thornlie, replaced by Thornlie-Cockburn line train services, as well as 930X. So yes, another X route, not just the 3 we got with the Ellenbrook line. It's just the high frequency 930 Elizabeth Quay to Thornlie, but obviously limited stops. Not as limited stops as the 230, and it is going to Elizabeth Quay, not Perth Busport. It's going to stop basically in front of every train station. So it's going to stop at Causeway, like all stops along in the city, I think. And then Causeway, and then here outside Victoria Park, which I wish the current 907 and 221 were stopping there when the line was still closed. It would be so good to get off there and just walk to the train, but nope. And then also out on Mint Street, outside Carlisle, out on Oats Street, outside Oats Street, just here, and limited stops. Also at these shops, Bentley Plaza, and then once it gets to around Carousel and that, it's just all stops to Thornlie. So yet another not really that fast and efficient X route, but I guess slightly faster, just a few services in each peak hour. Okay, let's just skim through the very last few now. Not much more. It's just 223 time changes. All these Armadale routes getting time changes because 907 is getting time changes, so they have to connect them differently, including still the routes to Byford, like 254 every 2 hours on a Sunday, and then whenever the train line opens every 15 minutes. That's still the most stark contrast thing. I can't believe it's still going to be like that. Stand changes. I already talked about those, connecting to the 176 with the 282 and 283. 284 undergo time changes and improved train connections at Carlisle with the new interchange, even though it's still just on both sides of the road. And another trip actually being withdrawn. And then 285, I kind of forgot about this. It's actually still terminating in East Victoria Park, while 37 got moved to Curtin Uni, but that's because it's so infrequent. It's just going to move back to Oats Street and time changes. And now into the next section. There's not much more here. 506, 507 replaced by those routes which we already talked about, including the new high frequency. 925, 508 replaced by all these routes. Yeah, these are the current routes just being replaced. Time changes, stand changes, stand change. This 515, that's just for the one school trip, which they already got confused when the terminus changed on that day when I filmed it, and now they're changing the stand at Cockburn as well. 517 time changes, and obviously serving Ranford Road, stand changes. And one little thing, trips that deviate via Southern River College will now operate express when travelling off route except to serve Southern River College. Because before they were actually stopping at all. Oh yeah, I know what that deviation is. It's like this really weird loop which they had extra stops on, but okay. Time changes serving Ranford Road. Time changes serving Ranford Road for 519, which is Armadale to Murdoch. That's also so weird now. All this route from Armadale, right? It's going to play part of the future Armadale line, and then connecting to the Thornlie-Cockburn line at Ranford as well. I wonder what would be faster, 519 or taking the trains? Probably still the trains, but I don't know. 520, just a stand change. That's so random. A route to Fremantle getting a stand change. Why? And then 529, time changes also still staying. I mean, yeah, because Armadale line's still not reopened. I don't know if it's still going to stay after it reopens. Hopefully it does, because it's a really good connection over to the Mandurah line from Armadale line. On top of the train, which you could use by switching it back in the future, but it'll probably be longer. And it's going to move from being operated by Transdev to being operated by Swan Transit. That's cool. And the 9XX routes, 907, time changes only between Armadale and Cannington. 908, which is the Victoria Park to Cannington, being withdrawn obviously, and passengers can use 930X, well, or 930, whatever. And then new 908 will just be train replacement of the Thornlie-Cockburn line from the city to Cockburn Central. That's gonna be such a crazy bus route via all the new stations, and then Roe Highway, Kwinana Freeway, terminating at Cockburn Central. Then for some reason the stand changes for 909 at Bull Creek, Cockburn, that's just Mandurah line replacement. Stand changes for 910. Zone A at the bus board. What is it B at the moment? Why? Yep, new 925 between Bull Creek and Cannington via Southlands Boulevard Shopping Centre, operating every 5 to 10 minutes in peak, 15 minutes during the day, 15 minutes weekends and public holidays. That is nice to have that. 930, later trips on Friday and Saturday. I actually checked, there's a trip at after 1 a.m. now on the 930, which is so weird. And new 930X providing the limited stops option every 15 minutes during peak periods. Actually, we should look at that timetable. Never mind, I don't think I can find it. It's not the same URL style, so I don't actually know. 935, even more trips for it. 940, some changes. 960, some time changes. And 998, obviously serving, and 999 serving Oat Street again, and those stands. And Press Stadium event 650. New stands, 651 and 660 no longer running, which 660 is probably only going to run once more, which is this upcoming Thursday when there's a weekday stadium event, which is quite rare. 907 you can use instead, and 656 will go to Southlands Boulevard, as I said before, instead of Livingston, which I've also made a video to cover that. And then there's school changes, which there's going to be, it says another more detailed, you know how they always write out massive paragraphs about school changes, page coming up soon, but just so you know, here it is, 707 being withdrawn. I think that's just Queen's Park to Cannington at the moment anyway. Time changes, withdrawn, lots of withdrawn because they're changing it just to normal routes. Whatever, just read them yourself if you want. No one really cares about school. Will be withdrawn. And then these are the Kent Street ones. 795 going to Oats Street Station instead of terminating at the current spot on Swansea Street East. And 798, which is actually morning only, departing Cannington Station. It's actually going to go to Oats Street as well. I don't think it ever did that before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 798 only just went Cannington to Kent Street. Now it's actually going via Oats Street Station as well. So strange. I don't think any route goes to both Cannington and Oats Street for the normal route. So that's strange service to have going to both. And that's it. Oh my gosh. The amount of buses that we had to go through there. That's just how it is. But overall, it's really just this map, which we originally got. Barely any changes. Don't know why it took so long to come out. The only stuff that's different is the 204 becoming the 925. The new 204, so there's not a gap in all the 20 something numbers like there is. There's no 344 at Ellenbrook, while there's every other 34 route. Luckily, we don't get that here because the new 204 will be going via Baile Road. And then they changed the 208 a bit to cover this section of the 223 and 226 on Town Centre Drive that's being removed. And there's also some routes which they've actually given a weekend service or a higher frequency than originally stated, but that's just based off feedback, like, oh, I want a higher frequency, and then they get it, especially giving it service on weekends, which is definitely useful. But that's it. I know this was very hard to follow with me just rambling about every single route like this, but I just got excited when I saw it for the first time. So I just wanted to make this video since I never did one on the original consultation. If you want more easy to follow videos and actually in real life, filming buses, seeing the stops, maps, explaining stuff, everything is being removed, make sure to watch all the bus changes videos that will be coming out over the next month, which I have filmed actually in like February already. I'll just have to put text on the screen for anything that changed, like the 925, and that'll be easier to follow and more enjoyable than just me rambling on the screen here. But yes, anyway, thank you for watching. If you made it all the way through and actually listened and comprehended everything, or if you just skipped to the section of the routes which affect you, which is probably what you should do, because I wouldn't expect anyone to sit through 1 hour of me rambling about bus routes, then congratulations if you did. But yeah, until the opening, I guess you'll see all my bus videos, but see you on the opening day. So exciting with the trains and all these changes happening, finally having an east-west link. Can't believe we have yet another new train line opening exactly half a year after the Ellenbrook line opened. So see you then. Bye.